David DeRoche is a professor at the National Defense University and a former director of Arabian Peninsular Affairs at the Office of the Secretary of Defense. He joins us now from Washington, D.C. Good to have you with us. So first of all, how is this change in post being seen? A promotion, a demotion?
Well, I think it's a promotion. The UN ambassador is an outward-looking position, whereas the National Security Advisor is inward-looking. And this administration seems to view the NSA job as just directing the interagency, not combing it for opinions and coming up with the best ideas. It also comes with some significant perks. I mean, there's a penthouse apartment in New York City close to the UN that most civil servants will never see unless they're cleaning it. And I think it's better suited for Mike's skills, given that, he was a member of Congress and also a prolific television commentator. The U.S. ambassador to the UN is kind of a forward, outward face of the U.S. government to the rest of the world. So I would view it as a promotion.
Why is Marco Rubio filling the post on an interim basis rather than someone being lined up to fill it for good, especially since the National Security Advisor is not a position that needs confirmation by the Congress, right?
Yeah, that's right. I think that the Trump administration has learned from the first time around when they chose national security advisors and then found that they just weren't suitable. So I think they're gonna take their time and try to find somebody who's actually right for the job, who can last for a long time. That's hard because most of the position, the president doesn't seem to take a lot of counsel. He seems to have his idea on things. So it's an inward-looking job that requires a good knowledge of how the interagency works and the equities of the major departments. There's not a whole lot of people like that in the Trump orbit. So I think that this interim position, and Rubio is also the interim director of USAID, I think that this might last a little bit longer than people think.
David, you mentioned this, that you see this as a promotion. It's an outward-looking job to go to the United Nations, but the timing is curious here, right? The knives have been out for Mike Waltz for a while. Is that solely over the Signal controversy, the Signal Group controversy, or are there deeper policy differences at play within the Trump administration?
That's really hard to tell. I mean, I hadn't heard of any dissatisfaction with Waltz or any discussion that he was threatened until the Signalgate happened. And the nature of that argument within Washington has mostly been, this is a big mistake. Somebody has to walk the plank for it. And the question was who? The two most likely candidates were Mike Waltz, who convened the meeting and who it was his mistake or somebody on his staff's mistake that led the reporter in. And
but David, what about the controversy kicked up by people like Laura Loomer? I don't know what to call her. She's been labelled everything from a social media personality to right-wing conspiracy theorist.
I haven't heard her specifically go after Waltz. She did go after some of the career NSC staffers, which in Trump land, that's viewed with suspicion because the first impeachment came out of detailed staffers to the NSC. So they're looking at those positions very, very carefully. But, those are not people that were hired by Mike Waltz. They're vetted. But, in the first 100 days, you're kind of stuck with the people from other agencies who have carried over, or who the agencies send over, until you can get a sense for your own people. So there may have been on the fringes some arguments there. And there's always policy disputes. And the fact that Mike is one of the few people who has a background in the career civil service, as well as in the military, as well as in Congress, means that he probably was the pragmatist in a meeting dominated by ideologists. The pragmatic view in some of these meetings can be seen as obstructionist.
Right.
But I think the only thing that really added up was the Signalgate controversy.
All right, briefly, what's the bottom line for the Trump administration's policies towards conflict zones, towards traditional alliances in Europe, NATO, Asia, and so on, with the departure of somebody like Mike Waltz from that
I don't
position,
think
not departure from the
people from the
administration.
Yeah, I don't think people from the outside will notice a difference. I mean, this administration prefers to work through special envoys rather than established agencies. So I think that we'll see Mike Waltz, more forceful presence at the UN, but no policy differences.
All right, thanks so much, David DeRoche, professor at the National Defense University and a former director of Arabian Peninsula Affairs at the Office of the Secretary of Defense.